Let's see. Live is starting for breathwork. Oh, let's see. Accept. Hello, Elena. Oops. We're trying to get something. Something is funky. So we have an invitation. Let's see. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. Is it happening? There we go. All right.
Hi.
Technical difficulties. That's
It's okay.
I'm like adding accept, and it's like Instagram did not want to play nice with us for a minute.
It didn't, but that's technology for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I am so excited today. This is Alex, a elemental rhythms breathwork specialist. So I'm going to tell people how I found you because I think it's kind of a cool story. So
Absolutely.
I went to a healthcare conference called Health Reimagining by Dr. Stephen Cabral, and Alex did a breathwork session with the entire crowd, and it was jaw-dropping. Like, people were crying at the end, people were shaking, people were dancing. It was just incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I didn't know, like, I thought breathwork was like, something you use in yoga, because we learned about like deep breathing during yoga when I practiced yoga a lot, like a dance essentially to breath work, which is how I perceived it. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I actually found my notebook I had during the whole session. And something you asked was, what does gratitude feel like to you? And I wrote so many notes down of what it physically feels like. And I can tell you guys, it was like, some of the things were like when I was going through a health crisis and I went to the ER for panic attacks because I didn't know what panic attacks were or whatever. But a nurse was just nice to me. And it was this immense amount of gratitude that made me want to cry. But I also put ballroom dancing, like dancing creatively to me was a feeling of gratitude because I was connecting for someone. And I have a whole lot of lists, like how like my family made me feel, my husband made me feel, my sister made me feel. At the end of the day, that gratitude all came down to unconditional love, a feeling of safety, and a feeling of alignment. And I was just like floored that like that's what gratitude means to me. You know what I mean? It's not like buying me a gift or doing this. It's feeling safe, aligned, and unconditionally loved. And it was just like I didn't know that you could get
That's
so much
beautiful.
beyond the breath, you know?
Yeah. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of elemental rhythm is that it's not only just breath work, but music, I feel, is a sacred form of healing and happiness and joy. And so it just aligns so beautiful with breath work. And then you go into the meditation after doing the rounds of breathing. So it's just such a powerful modality that so many people don't know about. And so I'm so glad that you invited me on here because I was so excited and looking forward to our live today.
Yeah, I was excited too. I really think, earlier today I had a different live that was also about mental health, and we kind of talked about the different buckets of, stressors, and some are internal, like what's going on with your gut, what's going on with other parts of your body. Some are related to environmental stressors, like things we can't always control, like toxins and pathogens. And then there's life stressors that are always going to be present. We can reduce them some ways, but we also have to learn how to cope with them. And what better way to learn a new skill like breath work? Because it's something that people can do all the time, right?
All the time. All the time. Absolutely. You have the breath all day, every minute of the day. And, it wasn't until I experienced it myself that I found, and I have nursing background, I have educational background in science, and yet even knowing about all this, I never tapped into the power of the breath. And once I started practicing breath work, it just transformed my life forever, forever. It was
Yeah.
just amazing.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background and how you found elemental breathwork. Obviously, you were on your own journey, but like, how did you end up landing on breathwork or elemental breathwork?
So, okay, yeah. So I have a 17-year nursing background, and specifically in the area of psychiatry, because I have struggled and suffered with anxiety my entire life. Since I can remember, I was just a very nervous child, a lot of anxiety. Fast forward, I went into the field thinking, oh, I'm going to figure out answers for myself and then hopefully also help people who suffer with mental health. And I just found myself going to psychiatrists. And even when I got into medicine or into nursing, you know, here in the Western world, it's all pharma, right? And talk therapy. And again, I'm not saying that that doesn't work. There's obviously a lot of scenarios and cases that they do benefit from pharmaceuticals and antidepressants, and for a short period of time. Now that I know so much about the mental health and also the biochemical and the serotonin and the dopamine and all these catecholamines that we have that either trigger the anxiety or the depression, but I never really felt relief. And once I would try to get off of the medication, it would just come right back, because they don't really give you the tools to deal with it, to cope with it. And if you do, you apply them, but it's only a short period of time. Whereas with, breath work and all these beautiful holistic modalities that I have found, it's become a lifestyle for me. It really has, because, I mean, again, like you said, the breath is with you at all times. So even if I am going somewhere where I feel anxious or I'm feeling a little bit like I can tell that my nervous system is getting on the upgrade, and I'm like, okay, let me just breathe. Even if I'm in the car, I start doing my earth element rhythm breathing, and then I go into like the ether breath, which I will talk about, and it automatically calms me down. Or there's other methods. I do different sequences of breath work. So, from my own personal experience, did I get relief from the Western medicine aspect of it? I did, but never long lasting results. I can tell you, when I started practicing breath work 3 years ago, I went to a ceremony, a plant ceremony. And in between the days, it was a 3-day retreat. And in between the days, they had a full session, because I actually started breath work with Wim Hof. And I was just doing his videos. I just started doing it, but I wasn't doing it regularly. But I did it enough that I started feeling the power of breath work, right? So with Wim Hof, you do long retentions. It's rhythmic breathing. So it's about 30 to 50 breaths, and then you retain. Well, I've just been doing that for 20 minutes. The first time that I did it, when I tell you that I was in tears, like, this release just came out of nowhere. I was not expecting it, because I had never done breath work, and my sister was the one who told me about it. So I'm like, all right, let me give it a try. I was going through a lot of, stressors at the moment. I was going through a really dark period in my life, and I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. And I mean, talk about just releasing, right? So then fast forward, I go to this retreat, and we do a full hour and a half of breath work, of elemental rhythm. This is where I found elemental rhythm. The facilitator there had trained with their institute up in Canada. And when I tell you that I felt in that hour and a half like I had had 5 years of therapy, no joke. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there was like no going back after that, because anytime, and again, I have I opened my entire life to the holistic field because I had gone to so many different doctors, including, myself, knowing all this, having all this education, excuse me, in medicine. And yet I felt like I was failing my patients because I was doing the same thing. I was just, prescribing antidepressants and benzodiazepines. And it's like I was finding my own journey really parallel to my patient's journey. And it was like, I felt like I was hitting a wall, not only personally, but professionally. And I knew that there was a missing link. And I think the woman who you had before that talked about mental health, it is that missing link, excuse me. It's looking at our health, and it could be physical health, it could be mental health, but you have to look at it, like you said, in those three buckets, right? And my three buckets are mind, body, and spirit. And spirit, listen, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it spirit, you can call it the divine, you can call it universe, you can call it quantum physics, you can call it your subconscious. That is what breathwork taps into. It's the subconscious, which is where that neuroplasticity starts, and that rewiring, which is what neuroplasticity, for those of you guys that are not familiar with the term, but yeah, that's where the rewiring starts. So when you go deep into breathwork after doing 3, 4, 5 rounds, your brain goes into hypnotic states. And I had actually experienced hypnosis back in my 20s. And actually, if I have to say that that was one modality that I really, as painful as it was, because I started getting flashbacks during hypnosis of traumatic events that happened during my childhood, it was very helpful in learning how to process those, right? And so with breath work, that came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's something to this. And the more I delved into the science of breath work, the more I realized, like, you're in a hypnotic state. And so therefore, when you go into the meditation after the 5 rounds of breathing, and you start in gratitude, right? Because gratitude, scientifically, there's been study after study, is that gratitude heals to your DNA. Like, it changes your DNA, it changes your cells. So I tell you that it catapulted me into this beautiful art form, like you said, yeah, that is so healing. It's just healing with the breath, healing with music, healing with dancing, because you do dance and you shake with elemental rhythm. So it's absolutely beautiful. I feel like it's a beautiful gift all in one,
That's definitely what I felt like experiencing it for the first time. And I think it's so helpful because for the people who are having more of those like nervous system issues and like, or childhood traumas, they don't know how to get it out. And sometimes just talk therapy alone, it's like all of it is still like sitting on their chest and it can't just like release. And I feel like that breath work is a tool where it's like, you're not, trying to control everything around you or like make it something. It's really just unloading and feeling refreshed to tackle on everything else. It's like building up a resiliency in your body to be able to take on new stressors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, like, let's talk about the body most of all. Let's start with that, because a lot of people don't understand how important breath work is just on a physical level, right? So you're increasing your lung heart capacity. One, you're teaching your body truly how to tolerate increases in carbon dioxide levels, which goes to your bucket of external stressors, right? Because we have in the atmosphere, we have so many gases that are not healthy for our systems, or even like mold or things like that. So specifically for carbon dioxide, hypercapnia, which we call in medicine. So when those retentions, those holds that we call in breath work, those really help you tolerate high levels. So when you're under stress, or even if you have an external environment that's not that healthy, doing breath work on a regular and continuous basis helps your body and your brain, your body, your cells to tolerate those in a much healthier way. So you don't get stressed out as easily. You know how to handle anything that comes your way. It's just, so as far as that's concerned, that's definitely one. number 2 is, again, the rewiring that happens in your brain. Number 3, it helps you sleep better, even clarity of mind. I know I start my day with breath work. Sometimes I even do it twice a day because I like to, if I am too hyped up at night, I just do a breath work session at night, and it helps me sleep. But in the morning, I notice that it's like my mind is clear. Your pH also becomes very alkalized. So, you know, pH, for those of you who don't know, it should be between 7.35 and 7.45. And so if you're more on the acidic side, that's not so good. So you want to be like right in the middle, and that's where breath work puts you, right? So you're functioning all day at an optimal pH, which helps your digestion, which helps your lymphatic system. I mean, it helps you with everything. For us females, I just turned 45, and I feel the hormonal changes. And when I started doing breath work 3 years ago, even like during my cycles, I feel much better, or I feel releases. It's just so wonderful, all the health benefits that breath work brings to our bodies.
Absolutely. Maybe we should, while we have some people on, maybe we should do a elemental breathwork session, a mini session, if you don't mind.
Yes, I would love to. That would be great. Absolutely. So I'm going to do the mechanics of breathing just for those who have never done breath work. So the breath really is a 2-part breath, right? So you really, because people tend to breathe up here on their chest, right? So it's like shallow breathing. So when we do breath work, I always encourage people to put one hand on their belly, one on their chest. So you make sure that you're inflating your diaphragm all the way. So you're like a big balloon. And then you bring the breath all the way up to your chest. So it's like a 2-part. So it's you bring it up and then out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay. In elemental rhythm, it's a little bit different than the one that I did at the summit. In elemental rhythm, this one that I'm going to be showing right now has 4 elements, which are all the elements. It's earth, water, air, and then fire breath. So the earth element, and we breathe to the rhythm of the music. You're inhaling through your nose for a count of 4, and then exhaling through your nose through your mouth, excuse me, for a count of 4. So it's nice and slow, okay? And then I transition into the water element. So the water element is a 2 count, so 2 in through your nose and then out through your mouth. So it's a okay, so belly, chest, exhale, belly, chest, exhale. Then we'll be going into the air element. The air element gets faster, so it's almost like a simultaneous belly, chest, and then exhaling through the mouth. So it's a so it's much rapid, okay? So it keeps getting faster. And then to finalize that round, we go into the fire element, which we use in yoga, which is the Kapalabhati pranayama breath. And I like to do it all through my nostrils, so I like to flare out my nostrils. And I focus more on the exhalation because the inhalation almost kind of pops up automatically by itself. So it's like you're exhaling through your nose and it pops right back up. Or if I tell people or my clients, if they're not comfortable just doing it through your nose, you can also do it through your mouth. And it's like a panting. It's like a, and we're only there for 30 seconds because it's so rapid. So just, I like to mention things that you might feel, even though this is going to be only a 4-minute session, you might start feeling a little bit of tingling sensation, like when your hands fall asleep. And that's because of the rapid exhalation of carbon dioxide mainly during the air element and the fire element, okay? So then what I'm going to do is that after we're done with the fire, I'm going to count down, and then I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and take a deep inhale. You're going to inhale, and you're going to hold it at the top. And then I'm going to tell you to squeeze your pelvic floor, your abdominals, all your chakras, and you're going to feel this energy rising. And when you release, you're going to release with either an or a buzz breath, we call it, or a Bhamari breath in yoga, which is like a buzzing breath right behind your nose. It's a and that's stimulates your vagus nerve as well. So that's very, very, very great for the parasympathetic. So it's very calming.
Yeah. For anyone who's struggling with, IBS symptoms and whatnot, take
Yes.
on the hum.
Yes, it's absolutely phenomenal. So let me turn my music on here, and hopefully I can let me know if I'm going to do a little trial run, and let me know if you can hear the music while I'm speaking. Can you hear it okay? And while I'm speaking? Yes? Okay.
Yep.
So here we go. So in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. In and out. In and out. In and out. That's the earth element. Continue. And close your eyes if you can. And just really connect the breath in and out. We're going to be moving into the water element in 3, 2, and 1. In, 2, out, 2. In, 2, out, 2. Really connect to the breath. In, 2, out, 2. In and out. Keep going. You're doing amazing. Really connect to the breath. In, 2, out, 2. Continue with that rhythm of breathing. Really connect to the breath. Surrender to the moment. In, 2, out, 2. Really don't let the mind get in the way. Just connect to your breath. We're going to be moving into the air element. In 3, 2, and 1. In, out. In, out. Remember, simultaneously belly, chest, and exhale. In, out. In, out. Connect to the breath again. This might feel intense and it's part of the breathwork journey. So just continue really connecting to the breath. It should become more automatic. In, out. In, out. In, out. Going into the fire element. In 3, 2, and 1. In, out. In, out. All through your nose if you can. Focusing on the exhale. Feel the heat coming through your diaphragm. 15 more seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take a deep inhale and hold it at the top. Start squeezing your perineum, your pelvic floor. Squeeze your abdominals, your solar plexus. Contract your chest. Keep squeezing. Feel the energy rising to the top. Squeeze as long as you can. And keep retaining. And when you're ready to release, You're going to release with the buzz breath or with an
Way possible. I feel like I have chills. I definitely felt the tingling after it
Yeah,
was over. Yeah.
for sure. There you go. You can, your body's speaking to you. That's what I say. That your biochemistry is already changing, and that's just one round. Imagine doing 5.
I know I'm like giggling. I obviously have a lot of good energies, which actually would be a great question. Is there different types of breath work that like riles you up versus calms you down?
So yes, absolutely. So like the one that I did at the summit where we met, that is more of a down regulation, right? So we do the earth element, which we just did, which is a counting in for 4, exhaling for 4, and then we transition into something called the ether breath. And the ether breath is inhaling for 4 and then doubling the exhale through your mouth for 8. So that really, really calms you down. So it's down regulating. So it kicks in more with the parasympathetic. Whereas with this type of rhythm, which we call the breakthrough experience or breakthrough sequence, you're actually calibrating both systems. You're calibrating the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, right? Because when you're doing the slower breathing, when you're in earth and water, you're doing more of a slower, then you kick that sympathetic system in where you're doing the rapid air and then even more rapid with the fire, right? So you're calibrating those two systems, which is wonderful as well. And people
Yeah.
have very powerful experiences with both.
Yeah, I definitely feel it in myself. I'm like, wow, it really like energized me up. And I remember at the
Yeah.
summit, like, so, and it was a longer session, right? So we probably had a little bit of everything. But I remember it was like intense relief. Like, I think a lot of people were tearing up. I was like tearing up. I
Yeah.
had to afterwards to let out all these like epiphanies that came to me, you know?
Right, right. And what a lot of people experience, most of all, I recommend it for individuals who have had stuck emotions that they just haven't been able to process when they really get stuck. And a lot of people are not even don't even realize, right, that they want to achieve a certain treatment goal or health goal, right? But they get stuck. It's like I said, they hit a wall and it's like, well, why? And breath work, that's the beauty of it, that when you practice breath work, you go into the subconscious. So I actually, after the summit, I had several people reach out to me because memories that they had stuffed down from childhood,
That was,
adolescence, like,
I having
yeah, it's like, is that normal? And I'm like, oh yeah, it is normal. Stuff that you have stuffed down for years and you think, oh, I've worked through that. No, it comes right back up. And then you realize, oh man, that's what was blocking me. That's why, and then it's like, to me, it's beautiful because it's like putting a puzzle together, right? It's like, wow, there comes another piece. It's like, okay, now I can unravel that childhood memory or whatever, something that impacted you maybe in a negative way, maybe firing from a job, breaking up from a relationship. All these things start coming up in breath work. And so I help my clients really navigate those energies and any memories that start coming up and doing it in a positive and healthy way so they can achieve those physical and mental health results that they want to achieve.
I think that's really important to mention because I think you're exactly right that a lot of people get stuck and they don't know how to release those in a healthy way. So if you're not going to be releasing it in a healthy way, you're going to be releasing it in a negative way, probably, whether it's, through
Absolutely.
whether it's through other coping mechanisms like, depression, anxiety, leaning on drugs and alcohol, or even like it ends to disease because you're internalizing. There's that body or that
Yeah.
book called which I'm sure like you've heard about or
Oh
read or
yeah.
whatever. That's like, the whole theme that if your body's keeping score, how do you heal and recover if talk therapy isn't enough and you want to do something positive to get
Right.
it out fast, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you tap into those deeper subconscious the subconscious mind really is what you're doing. You're opening it up, right? It's like you're uncovering, and that's why all those memories start coming up, because your subconscious, obviously that's why it's called sub, right? It's underneath, so you're not, it gets stuffed away. And really in our primary years is where that hardwiring really sets in, right? So it's ages from when we're born up to about 7, 8 years old. So if you had any, and again, when we talk about trauma, a lot of people think like, oh, well, I've never gone through traumatic experiences, I've never, been sexually molested as a child or abandoned or whatever. People think of trauma as like huge things, and it doesn't have to be. Again, I call it big T, little t, right? The little t's we all have, because that's life, right? Who doesn't
Right.
have little t's, right?
Right.
Like I said, breaking up, having a horrible breakup, you lose the love of your life, or even a friendship. I mean, things happen, come at us, losing all your money, losing a job, there's so many things that
A little
happen.
sibling, especially if you're the oldest,
Yeah,
like, or the opposite, having a sibling and being the youngest and feeling compared to, it's like all these things get stuck.
absolutely.
That changes how we perceive the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, getting into health and the holistic health helped me understand that you have to unwire your brain, right? That hardcore wiring, and
Yeah.
rewire. And that's no joke. That is a lot of work. And that's why, to me, right? It's like a daily thing to me. That's why I'm like, I don't know how, without all these modalities that I practice on a daily basis, I don't know how I would navigate through life in a healthy, positive way. Because when I think of my life 10 years ago, it was nothing like it is, because I didn't have all these
Right.
wonderful coping mechanisms, right, at my fingertips that now I've learned. And obviously I help people now with all these modalities. But in the past, I would have, either cried or just gone to talk therapy. And here I am back to square one, right?
Right.
So
Right.
in order to really achieve those results that we want in mind, body, and spirit, to me, you have to combine all of these modalities. Because if you're just looking at one, like you said, one bucket, I love that you call them buckets. If you're only looking at one bucket, you're not going to get anywhere. And you might a little bit, and again, it might be just temporary, but in order to really achieve those optimal results, you have to tackle all three.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's interesting because it's nice that with something like breath work, it also makes you independent because you don't have to rely on, somebody else fixing your problems. I don't know about other people, but like I dealt with cyclical depression for a long time. And, when I would go deep in my hole, either I had no tools to like climb myself out of there, or, I did do yoga or dance or things like that. But,
mhm,
or I on to others. Like, when I had my husband, I would, talk to him, but he can't pull me out of there. You know what I mean? You can't
right?
really, you're pulling on people and just almost dragging them down. Or like if you're
Yeah,
angry, or if, like, there's just
right. Or
different tools.
lashing out.
Or lashing out, or even drinking yourself, and that's causing issues. You don't have the tools, versus something like this, you literally have a tool in your pocket that will strengthen you regardless of what is happening around you. Not everything has
Absolutely.
in the
Yeah, and I also, to go into your point, I love that you're saying that. You just made me think. I actually have 2 sessions with children tomorrow. Well, a child and an adolescent, and I tell parents all the time how powerful to teach your
yeah.
kids the power of the breath, because when they're under stress and you're not around, right? When they're on a play date or at school, or even by themselves in their room, they can literally, you can show them how to breathe, and it's self-soothing to children. Because I have a preteen and a teenager now, but even the little ones, I'm a teacher also. And so when I taught third grade, I would do it with my third graders, and these are ages 8 and 9, 7, 8 and 9, and they loved it. They would ask me for it. They're like, well, can we do the breathing? Can we do the breathing? Why? Because they feel safe. They know that I have the power to self-regulate. I feel comforted when I breathe. I know that I'm in control of what is going on in my experience, right? So it is it's such a wonderful tool for, and most of all, kids nowadays that are so plugged into all these medias, and they're being constantly bombarded by adults and media and information and from everywhere. It's like they have no downtime, right? And so teaching them how to take control of their breath is so powerful and so comforting for them. I say comfort because I can see when I do it with children, it's like this, like even their energy field just feels calmer after they do a breathwork session.
It makes a lot of sense. My oldest kiddo, he's prone to anxiety, so I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, what are the tools I can give him so when he does have different situations, he can kind of calm himself down. And I actually have a friend who I know she runs a little bit more anxious, and she tells me she starts every single morning with breath work. And from the outside, I would say she's my little like wisdom guru. She's always calm. She always seems cool and collected, but I think it all comes down to that she's built tools over time to help her body manage. And that's what
Right.
we all, all of us have the same
Absolutely.
of building up that toolbox, even if we didn't have it before.
Yes, yes. And you can do it, young or old, even if you're 60, right? You can build that toolbox at any moment in your life. It is never too late to begin building those healthy daily habits and really using them. It really, because you can learn them as much as you want, but it's putting them into practice. And that's why I'm such an advocate on building healthy daily routines. Those are like my non-negotiables, right? My non-negotiable in the morning, I get up, I work out, yoga, breath work. Those are my three non-negotiables. And then at night, I do my meditation. I sometimes do breath work as well. And I go to sleep and I do my gratitude list. And those are just healthy habits to get into.
Yeah, that's what we all need. Is there anyone that breath work is not for?
I would say no. I mean, unless you're on a ventilator, right? No,
Yeah.
I mean, sorry. But really, there's really no contraindications other than maybe if you have heart lung conditions that are very severe. I wouldn't do the breakthrough sequence that we just did. When there are more severe health concerns, or even like pregnancy, I've done sessions on pregnant women. I do a more down regulation, so I do the flow sequence, right? Right. So if it's someone who has a lot of uncontrolled hypertension, for example, I wouldn't put them under, number one, the retentions wouldn't be as long. And I would do a flow sequence, which is more of a down regulation. Also, people who are, let's say, really struggling with acute anxiety or acute panic disorder, anything that's really acute, I do more of a flow sequence because it's a more down regulation. So when something is acutely going on, or if it's something more severe health wise, I do a more down regulation sequence. Yes. So I would say it's for everybody.
Yeah, just the style, it depends. And that's so cool because then having a professional like you go help someone through it, then you can help them find the right sequence and style for them, which is nice.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes, absolutely.
I was gonna ask you, where was I wrote some questions down. What benefits have you seen in clients over time using breathwork? Like, have you seen them? Well, first, what do they normally come in for? Like, do they say, I'm struggling with this, this, and this, and I'm hoping to use breath work? Or they're like, let's see what you got. And then what changes do you see when they're like into it and have been doing it for a while?
So I get both, right? So I get people who know about breath work, and there's some like, okay, I want to experience this. I've never done it before. Let me see what happens. What I get is it's so beautiful, the results that I see from my clients. I can tell you that I've been working with several clients they do it on a weekly basis. I mean, now I've probably like 6 months on a weekly basis, and just the transformation in how they really process their emotions, things that come up with that, with whatever memories from the past, right? Or even what things that they're going through, you know, in real time, right? So if they're having any stressors at work, or like I had a client, or I have an active client right now who she was having a lot of stressors at work. And just 2 weeks ago, when her breathwork session, she had the biggest release, and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. I knew I had a lot of stress, but I didn't know that I was holding it in, because she was in her masculine energy, right? So
Right.
I always talk about masculine and feminine. So us as women, we have to present to the world in a very masculine energy when we're business owners, when we're bosses, when, you know, and then you stuff down those emotions where you do feel like crying because you had a really crappy client yelling in your face, right? But you can't. So you just like stuff it down. So that's what she had like a couple of weeks of that. And then 2 weeks ago, when I did one of the most powerful sequences for her, it just came all out. And she's like, my goodness, like I don't even know how I would have processed all this without doing breath work. I think I would have held it in, right? Another client who had been doing breath work on her own, but now she's doing it with me. Obviously, I do it in a very professional manner where I really take her through, and I have my clients journal a lot, because, and I give them homework, right? Because
I love
that's part of the process. Because if things are coming up and you are not writing them down and really reflecting on how they're affecting you, then really you're that energy is going to stay stuck. Like it's going to come up, and then you're not really navigating those energies and learning how to process all that. So journaling is extremely important when you're doing breath work, most of all these full sessions, because a lot of things do come up. And so just putting it down on paper and looking at it in a different perspective gives you a great way to understand what's going on. And then I talk to my clients about they share it with me. And because of my background in psychiatric nursing, I did group therapy, individual therapy. So I do use my psychiatric background in teaching them how to cope and do other, even if it means going to someone who they do want to do talk therapy with. Absolutely. I have referred them out, and they continue doing breath work. So
that.
I get so many things. I have a lot of people who have had childhood traumas that are working through it, because I am trauma trained as well. So I have them process. I do like a trauma journal for them. And that's a lot more deep work, but it is so transformative, because I work with a therapist, or I refer them to a therapist that I collaborate with. And so we talk on a regular basis about the client to see how they're doing in their therapy, along with the breath work.
That's a nice like community way to help them. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. It is so powerful. It is so powerful, because in therapy, you know, again, they're talking at a not superficial level, I don't want to say, because obviously you go into a deeper level, but in breath work, where all these very deep seated emotions and memories come up, that's where that real work starts, right? So all this starts coming out, they start journaling, they start processing it with me, and then they go into a psychotherapist, or they do, you know, different types of therapy, cognitive behavioral. There's so many out there nowadays. So
And that makes sense because I think a lot of people don't even realize where their emotions really are, especially if they're the kind of people who cope with like saying like everything is positive, everything is good, everything is fine, while deep
yeah.
inside they're
Oh, that was me.
like,
Yeah. I was always like, everything's great. And inside I was like, this is horrible. Like I didn't even know how to deal with anything. Yeah. Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot, because a lot of people, yeah, it's like I said, people go through the motions of life, and we think, right? Because we really do, because our frontal lobe, we're processing everything. The mind always wants to make sense of what's going on, right?
Right.
And to me, our emotions start in the body, right? So it's like the base of the brain is responsible for all these autonomic systems that are just, our heart is beating, right? So when
Right.
our heart rate starts going up, we think, oh my gosh, fight or flight, here I go with my anxiety. So then our mind is like, okay, I got to make sense of this, what's making me like, and it's just like this snowball effect. And if you just take like 10 seconds and start breathing. Just start breathing. I tell people, just start breathing. If you feel that anxiety or overwhelmment, and it doesn't even have to be like a panic attack. It could just be like, oh my gosh, I'm just having a really overwhelming day. Even at your desk, I tell people, if you're at work, just take 5 minutes and breathe, breathe. And I teach my clients all the time. I teach them, that's the other thing that I teach my clients, are short sequences that you can do in the car that is safe while you're driving, or in your office or at home, that you can do literally 5 to 10 minutes and you can already feel your nervous system starting to calm down. It's amazing. It is amazing.
That's incredible. And it's interesting because I studied biopsychology and cognition neuroscience back in undergrad, and they always talked about how like the brain and the body have like a bi-directional relationship. So it's kind of
Really?
like you start from the body, where you start feeling palpitations
Yeah.
and you're like, what does this mean? Let me be anxious towards something. Or it could be that stressors are coming in, you're getting nervous, and it's causing you palpitations. But with breath work, you cut it in the middle. It doesn't matter from which direction it's coming from, and
Yeah.
you change the response by your action, because you could do it either way. It could be something's, you change it with, medication. By changing the neurotransmitters, it changes the response. Or you could change it by physical actions, like changing your breath,
Absolutely.
and it has the same effect.
It does. It does, because you're going right back to the body. It's like your body is telling like your mind, like, no, we have control of this. I got this. I got this. And then automatically, like you said, those neurotransmitters or the cortisol levels start going down. All those bad, the ones that make us that fight or flight, they start really coming down. When you start regulating the breath, your biochemistry automatically starts changing. So yes, you get immediate results. And actually, I have a couple of reels that people who follow me can go in, but a great way, and actually, Dr. Huberman, he actually talks about breath work a lot. I don't know if you've heard of him, I'm sure, right?
I haven't listened to his podcast, but I've heard multiple
He's
people mention amazing.
He's big into neuroscience, and so doing a double inhalation through your nose. So if you think about it, when you're crying, right, you notice that you're like, right, you like,
Oh
people tend
yeah.
to do that, right? So when you're very stressed out or overwhelmed, if you just do a
Wow.
automatically, that kicks in that actually stimulates your phrenic nerve, which is the nerve that's responsible for your diaphragm. And so also your parasympathetic automatically kicks in. So that double inhalation, it also inflates your alveoli in your lungs. And so you're already bringing new oxygen into your cells. And so automatically your nervous system starts calming down. So just doing if you do that for 5 minutes, you're going to see automatically how your heart rate starts dropping. Just everything starts slowing down. It's phenomenal. And
That's
he
like,
actually mentioned it in one of his podcasts.
wow.
Yes.
That's like a biohacking tip. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
to
it is.
connect dots and be like, you can do this. If you don't have time to cry, just do this breath work in the bathroom real quick at work.
Exactly. Right. Yes. Yeah,
That,
absolutely.
that's great. I'm going to see. Oh, how does elemental breath work compare to other styles of breath work?
So the beauty of elemental rhythm, so there's so many different types. There's somatic, there's elemental rhythm is considered a holotropic, right? Because you going into the subconscious mind. And people do have very deep experiences, as I mentioned before. I've had clients in visualizations, because you actually wear an eye mask during a full session, and people have even connected with loved ones that have transcended. They've seen them during breath work. Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many beautiful things. So that where it becomes very different is that we incorporate the body, because the first session that we do is the shaking round, or I call it like the dancing round, where you're really shaking your body, right? So a lot of people who don't exercise on a daily basis, or are very stagnant in their energy, it gets stuck in your energetic body, right? So shaking, we do 5 to 6 minutes of shaking to music, and that really starts opening up your energetic field, right? You start really feeling at a cellular level that the heat starts really rising, and then we go into the breath work. And the fact that we use music, just music in itself, is extremely healing, right? So like my playlists incorporate high frequency sounds. I also use sound healing, so I have bowls as well that I use during the retentions. So that's very different than any breath work that I've seen out there, because usually somatic breath work, they just guide you with no music, which is very helpful as well. Like I said, these like short sessions that I do them without music sometimes, but even if I do a 30-minute session on myself, I love to do it with music because it's rhythmic breathing. It's beautiful because you're really truly breathing to the rhythm of the music. So that's another element that you're incorporating, is that your brain is going to the sound. So it's also, if you're in fight or flight mode, your brain is not there anymore. Because why? Because you're breathing, number one, and number two, you're listening to sound. And as you probably know, sound frequency is extremely powerful. So that's the beauty of it. And then also you go into a meditation right after doing the 5 rounds. So, and I've tried different types of breath work. I have never seen elemental. That's why I wanted to train with them. They're beautiful. Gio, actually, who's the owner and he's the founder of Elemental Rhythm, he actually trained with Wim Hof himself, like on a class. Yeah, he actually did it, personally with him. So he has, I think he's on his 6th year. Amazing, amazing. Gio is just phenomenal. And so he is the founder of Elemental Rhythm. And when I found them, it was just like, I have to do this. I have to do this, and I have to bring it to the world and show people the power of the breath, because it is just beautiful.
That's kind of how I felt when I saw you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like ballroom dancing, but meditation at the same time in my head. And I was like,
Right?
I have to find this lady. And I told you this story, but I didn't tell the audience that I thought I found her to tell her how wonderful the session was at this conference. And I had told like a good 15-minute spiel to somebody else with dark hair. And then I was like, oh, wait, you're right. You're not the same person, but kind of in the back, and I don't have the best eyesight to begin with. So I was like, oh, they kind of look the same. They have long dark hair. And yeah, that was embarrassing. But
So
I'm glad I'm on Instagram, because I do think your
I was
work.
going to say, we found each other anyway, so this
Yeah,
is great.
yeah, anyways, it was fate. But I do think this kind of breath work is so different from anything I've ever experienced or seen before. It does
Mhm.
remind me of like, I've done like yoga to music that I really like, or ballroom dancing. It is that like spiritual element that brings breath and meditation and music. And I know not everyone like feels this strong connection to music like I do, but I'm sure there are plenty of people out there, because it's
Oh,
intense.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people, it depends. That's the other thing that I love about Elemental, is that I tailor the music to my client as well. So I even sometimes ask them, is there something that you prefer? And, like with the kids, for example, like tomorrow I'm doing one, and this little one loves hip hop. So I incorporate hip hop for him, and I have him breathe to it, and he loves, so really I tailor it to
That
the client.
it like hits their specific like nerve and like happy
Yeah,
spot. My husband would probably
absolutely.
music, which is not my thing, but I'm sure you can find a way.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. You'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of, men are a little bit more resistant in trying these things, I have to be honest. But once they try it, I just did a session this week on someone's husband, and he was like, oh my gosh, I have never, and he's done breath work in the past. He's like, I have never had a session like that, like never experienced what I experienced with elemental rhythm breath work.
Maybe I'll have
Yeah.
to have a couple session. Would you ever do a couple session?
Oh,
I'll
for
have
sure. I've done them before. Yes.
my
Yes, I have. I've done parent and child. I've done couples. Yes, it's extremely powerful, extremely.
That's awesome. Well, what are like 3 key takeaways that you would want to give to anyone who's interested in breath work or learning new like coping strategies for their mental health?
So 3 takeaways is those, again, I'm going to go back to my 3, right? So one is that you are improving your bodily health, right? Your physical health, because going back to all the cellular level things that are happening during breath work, right? You're also, I was going to mention, your lymphatic system also really kicks up because you're releasing, right? So even like I'm thinking of the client that I had last week that had such a major release. She told me she kept sweating during the night. So your lymphatic system is also cleaning all these toxins out through sweating, through tears. You know, you're releasing. And you can keep releasing up to 72 hours. So takeaways is that breath work is helping your entire all of your systems are being activated in a healthy way to release any toxins that you're holding on to. It's helping your digestion, because when you're in a more calm state, you digest your foods better, your absorption rate is better. So all those things are happening for you. Mental health, I mean, I can go on and on about all the mental health benefits that it has for people who suffer from depression, anxiety, even, you know, I have clients that have PTSD. They have had amazing results in learning how to navigate the waters of anxiety, of when they have flashbacks like I did, right? And then the soul part. So that's going to the subconscious. Because a lot of people are very afraid to tap into your subconscious because they don't want to go there, right? They're afraid of it. But it's embracing that fear and that unknown and really diving into it, even with the fear, because that's how you start gaining back and doing that rewiring, right? It's like, oh, wow, I got through that. Now I understand how to deal with the subconscious mind, with your soul, because your soul is talking to you, your body's talking to you, your mind is talking to you. So those 3 takeaways is that breath work is going to hit all those 3 things that really encompass the gift and the magic of really having a healthy lifestyle and having an optimal health, right?
Right.
Mind, body, and soul. Absolutely.
I love that. Well, I hope people that join on or people who watch it later are going to get some, inspiration to dive into the world of breath work. And you know where to find Alex. Well, she'll be tagged in this replay. And hopefully they'll get excited about, focusing on the whole mind, body, soul, and spiritual health. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. This has been
Thank
so
you. Thank you. It's always so great connecting with you.
Yep. Have a wonderful night and weekend.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.